This video is going to discuss content from the Murach chapter 8. We're going to talk about array lists. So we've already talked about arrays a little bit. So arrays and array lists are similar data containers. They both are known as what's called a collection. So there's lots of different types of collections. Arrays and array lists are just two of them. So array lists, just like arrays, allow you to store more than one element of the same type under a single variable name, and then access those elements using an index. A couple of things that are different about arrays and array lists. One is that arrays are fixed in size. Once you make an array have 10 elements, it's going to have 10. You can change that, but it's very complex and not easy to do. Arrays also use a primitive data types. We say array of double with a lowercase d, or array of int. In array lists, we use the wrapper class. So we have to use the capital D double, or we use integer, etc. So this is because it's just a requirement of the array list. And so those wrapper classes have additional functionality beyond just what the primitive data type has. So they also arrays, because they're static, you can't add elements to the end and things like that. And so array lists allow you to add and remove and replace elements and insert things in the middle of the array list, etc. So here's code that uses, and this is an array up here at the top. This is an array list. So the first thing we see is the definition. So we see this is using a variable name called scores. We're setting it to a new array of type integer, and it has 3 elements in it. And then we're accessing those. We're setting those values by using the square bracket nomenclature here to access those. And then we can use an enhanced for loop to print out that. Here's an array list. This code does the same thing as the top part, only it uses an array list. So you see we create an array list. We say scores equals new array list. So we actually use the word array list here. And we put the type of element that's going to be in the array in these angle brackets. And then we have to use the parentheses at the end here. This is because this is a constructor of an object. So just like when we create a new scanner, we have to put the parentheses and we say where we're scanning from, system.in in this case, or we say, so in here we have to do the same thing. This is a method. This is a constructor method inside this class. And so because of that, you have to use the parentheses because you're calling a method. And then instead of assigning values using the square bracket nomenclature, we use a built-in method of the array list called add. Scores.add. There's a corresponding .get. If we wanted to read scores at 0, we would say scores.get at 0. And then this, of course, use the enhanced for loop, works identically to the array. So we always include this array list, java.util array list. Anytime we're using anything about an array list, we need to include this. And then, of course, here is the constructor. We're a new array list of type, and then with the parentheses. Here's examples of creating an array list. This is an array list of string. We're setting the type. This is the type of the variable. This is the name of the variable codes, and it's set to new array list of string, new array list of integer, etc. You can also use the implicit definition. So this is the explicit definition saying what kind of variable, what data type variable codes is going to be. You can also use the var shorthand, which will just set the type of codes based on the inference of the data type of the expression on the right side of the assignment statement. We will use these methods. We're going to add things to an array list. We will get things from an array list, and we will use the size. The size tells us how many elements are in the array list at any given time. So here's examples of adds. This last one, so we simply say codes.add. So codes is an array list of strings. So we just say codes.add, and then the argument for that method is a string. This one is a little unique in that we say codes.add, and we're giving it an integer and then a string. This is actually an insert. So this is inserting the value Java at the beginning of the array list at position 0. So anything that's at position 0 shifts to 1, position 1 shifts to position 2, etc. So if you want to insert something into the middle of the array list, then you can do that here. These are this is the size. So if you say codes.size, this is the same thing as the length of an array. This tells you how many elements are in the array list. Remember, this is zero based. So if there are 10 elements in the array list, you would get them by getting element 0, 1, 2, 3 through 9. So codes.size would return 10, but the elements are numbered 0 through 9. Here's an example of the enhanced for loop. Works exactly like it does for arrays. You can also do a printout for the arrays. We had the toString function that was in the arrays class. That's a little bit built into the array list, so you can just print line the array list itself, and it will convert it to some type of string output. Here are more methods. Clear, this does exactly what you think it does. It removes or deletes all of the elements from the array list, sets the size back to 0. Contains, this allows you to search. So if you want to search for an element in the array list, you can use the contains to do that, to find out if the array list contains whatever object you're looking for. Maybe it's an array list of strings and you want to search for a string, you can use that. Index of is similar to contains in that it will return the index of the element if it finds the object, returns -1. Otherwise, is empty. Boolean value, is the array list empty or not? This is the same as testing for, is the array list.size equal to 0? You can remove an object, you can update you can remove an element, you can update an element. So here you can take an element, maybe you've added something, you want to go back and change element 1 to something else, you can use that here. And then you can convert your array list to an array if you want to do that. Here's an example of replacing an element. Here's an example of removing an element. Here's an example of searching for an element. Contains is a Boolean expression. Codes.contains, this returns true or false. These are the data types that you'd use. So if you want an integer, an int array list, you would use integer, double, uppercase characters here because we're using the wrapper class, not the primitive data type. Here's an example of building an array list with integers. Here we're retrieving the element. Instead of saying for an array, we would say numbers at 0 with the square brackets, but here for an array list, we say numbers.get 0, and 0 being the argument to the get method. That's it for the overview of ArrayLists. We'll have subsequent videos that will do some examples.